welcome back, everybody. Lisa Haverly here, Nature Superhero Network. I am so excited to have another OT here with me today. This is Emily Bryce, and as I've said in the past, my kind of conviction behind doing these interviews is to help inspire, empower other therapists to see how nature-based therapy can look, and that most importantly, it can look many different ways. And so I have been a stalker of Emily's for a very long time because I can see even through social media that she is just a beautiful, passionate person. And so I'm just so eager to speak with her. She inspires me, and I'm hoping that she'll inspire you. So she's going to share her story with us this evening because it's actually dark outside here in Wisconsin. And all our beautiful snow, I didn't even tell you, we got another 5 inches and we're hoping for another 4 overnight. So it's been nothing but snow and more snow here in Wisconsin, which it's fine. It was very beautiful today. So Emily, I would like you to introduce yourself, share your connection to nature, where that kind of originated, and then what was the spark, or I call the struggle, that really said, I'm going to take these children outdoors in nature. That is where I want to serve. So thank you for being here. Welcome.
Yeah, of course. I am Emily Bryce. I'm an occupational therapist, OTR, and I work in Kitsap County, Washington. So I'm across the sound from Seattle in western Washington. So it's a lot more usually mild climate here, although we did get a crazy ice storm and a bunch of snow right before Christmas, but not like Wisconsin. Let's see, I've been in OT for 4 years, I think. Going on 5, something like that. So not incredibly long. But I have always been really passionate about nature. I grew up in a very small town in Northern California. And my mom was very interested in nature. We had a lot of acreage, spent a lot of time outside. We did water monitoring and, planet stewardship kind of stuff is just part of what went on in our little town. We're up at a big watershed in Northern California that fed a lot of the waters of California, which is a problem of California, water. So it was very important. And I spent a lot of time out there as a child and young adult. And then I moved to the Los Angeles area for my undergrad and graduate program and realized how very less connected to nature it is down there. There is a lot of nature and it's very different. The beach is really lovely. The sort of desert, semi-arid, climate was very different than the forests where I had grown up. But there was lots of nature, but nobody was really utilizing it besides some hikes and Griffith Park kind of stuff. And I just started really missing it. And I knew I wanted to work with kids and finally found OT. And when I did, I was also researching forest kindergartens because I just thinking my kid in the future, I don't know if we're staying in LA or going somewhere else, like I would want them to be outside. And had been inspired by the work of Erin Kenny from Cedarsong. And I actually found her at a outdoor OT awesome human at a California conference, a lady that works, Kathleen Locklear, out of she was in one of the presenting at a conference.
Did you do one of her retreat things?
No, I met her way before she was doing the cool retreat. And I have never had one that's scheduled right, but she's incredible, and she's combined some of my interests together of working outside with kids, but also in OT. I thought it was going to be a separate thing, that I was really interested in forest kindergartens, and either my kid was going to go to one or I was going to start one if there wasn't a good one, but ended up realizing I could also do that for occupational therapy. And I started doing research. I did not want to stay in Southern California when I graduated. And Northern California was on fire and running out of water. And so I wanted to move more north. So we moved up the coast to Washington, where I started working in school-based. And as I was getting my feet wet as a new grad and just figuring out OT in general and all that crazy documentation and school-based, I was just sort of slowly deciding how I was going to piece things together. We started looking for land to build a house and to build a business on. And I got to do Erin Kenny's Cedarsong Way training, actually the first one after she passed.
Oh.
It was supposed to be the last one that she did before she passed, but she passed earlier than she expected.
Mm.
And but I got to meet that amazing community and got very involved in Cedarsong. I'm still on the board of Cedarsong and American Forest Kindergarten, all up in that world. And then found a sensory clinic up there that was a lot more my style than school-based. And started out pretty traditional, indoors, indoor clinic. Again, pretty new grad, just getting my feet wet.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic happened.
Wow.
So what I thought was a much further out plan, I had already decided we found an amazing piece of property, 5.5 acres, we had a creek, and it was really nice. We could have a place for our house and a lot of space for us to be able to create a practice, both for forest school and OT. But I ended up getting sort of pushed into it a lot faster than I was anticipating because I didn't want to be inside with all these little humans. We tried telehealth for a couple months, and that was not ideal for a lot of my clients. And so I just, asked my boss, again, traditional sensory clinic bills insurance, if I could go outside and start seeing them in the park or at their homes in their backyards. And he checked with all the things. And it turned out, yes, I could do that. It wouldn't change our billing source. It wouldn't change his, liability insurance.
Yeah.
And I started in parks that whole summer, first summer of the pandemic. And then got my property set up that summer as well. And then starting in the fall, started seeing kids on my property through my boss's business 1 day a week. Okay. And then everyone just wanted to stay outside.
Yeah.
So we just got more and more outside. I go in to our indoor clinic half of 1 day a week.
Oh, wow.
And the rest of the time I'm outdoors. And then my business, I started a forest school this last fall to serve mostly neurodivergent kiddos and kids that don't fit as well into even traditional forest schools in our area. We're very lucky to have forest schools already around here. Yeah. But they don't have as much support and understanding of some, challenges of neurodivergent little humans.
Right.
And so we've had one term so far, and it's been amazing. And just expanding and trying to get more people to see that nature-based OT doesn't have to be, I did create a cool playground in my property at my house, but I didn't need to. Like, I really didn't have to have built that. It was very cool. I'm very excited. Kids love it. Yeah. But all we needed was like a dirt hill or like, our creek would have been fine. A random place to hang lycra. I don't need this whole amazing thing that I built. Yeah. So, and then I still see kids in parks and in their backyards. So, utilizing our public spaces and utilizing kids' own nature spaces that they have in their apartment complex. Right. I've seen kids in their apartment, like little center, grassy area. Yeah. And just around their neighborhoods, as well as in local parks and playgrounds. And
that sounds like truly community-based OT. Right?
Yeah, I think it's really important.
And then it's generalizable because they take that experience in that nature space right where they live, and they can go and repeat it on their own. Yeah, that's
awesome. I've had families that said, especially kids that were runners, that they were really worried about the safety aspects or had, poor safety awareness or like really high, risk tolerance for kids, or like low impulse control. Yeah. That they were afraid to take them to playgrounds with lots of other kids because they maybe had other kids too, and they just didn't feel like they could supervise them enough, or they hadn't been to that playground and they didn't know if it was going to be safe or how the parking lot was, or was there a lot of traffic? What if they ran off and went down the ravine? All those kind of things. And so when I was seeing those kids in those parks that are their local parks, now they're like, oh, I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, yeah, hey, that's the only part that he's ever gotten tripped off. Let's watch this part. Or like, oh, he's kind of obsessed with the bathroom, so keep that in mind. Or like, I've never had a problem with him in the where the cars are going in the parking lot, but he does really want to climb up high on this thing, so you would keep that in mind. So it really just sort of help them feel a lot safer in their own nature.
Yeah, more comfortable taking their child to those spaces. Awesome. So what the struggle was for you was probably the pandemic that kind of either triggered kind of what was hoping to come down the pike at some point in time, but it just came sooner.
Yeah, I just had to start. I was just like, okay, everything we were doing in the clinic, I'll just try to do out here at the park. I'll just bring our marble run, and I'll bring our puzzles, and I'll bring our fine motor activities and our painting. And we'll just do that here at a picnic table. And then slowly it grew into a lot more things, and utilizing more natural materials. And
awesome. I love that story. I love that story. So you really kind of had to jump 2 feet right in without really having any real plan other than your OT skill set and knowing and believing, well, I can do this. I can do this. I can make this work in nature. And then kind of the gravity of how big this could be and meaningful and impactful kind of evolved and became these aha moments as you saw progress, and then people not even wanting to go back indoors.
Yeah, it's really exciting to have so many families just be like, no, this was exactly what my kid needed. I didn't even know this is a thing, and this was perfect. You know, the kids that were having trouble even in, you know, traditional OT clinics, you know, either too visually overwhelming or too many choices, or, you know, whatever it was. And to be able to have that freedom outside, and to be able to have freedom of movement where they don't have a lot of freedom of movement in their normal day and their school day. And when they go places with their parents, they're very locked down because of safety concerns. And you know, when either they have a one-on-one person with them, that my complete focus is making sure they're safe and regulated, or they're on my property where I live on the end of a dirt road and we can go on the roads and there's nobody out here. Either way, like, they had a lot more freedom of movement, which allowed a lot more things to sort of come to the surface and learn about a lot faster, as well as just like keep their regulation down so we could actually work on some of these other skills. Whereas in the clinic, seeing the same kids, because I had the opportunity to see the same kids both in clinic and outside, and be
that to see really cool. Both contexts.
Yeah.
And they had you as the same, right?
Mm-hmm. The same kids.
Different environments. I mean, I think that could be a study all by itself. Right? And where does the child want to be? They want to be outdoors. So, and you have to follow their lead and know that they have some wisdom there about what works for them. So really, really cool. All right. So I'm going to look at my questions here. So just tell me, okay, so your business name, so you work for a clinic, but your business name is?
Little Fern Forest.
Little Fern Forest, where you have forest school and your OT private practice.
So currently I'm doing a lot of like sensory consulting, and then we'll be starting by the summer one-on-one and group outdoor OT sessions in other parts closer to Seattle, because I do take a lot of OT students. So any OT students are watching this, hit me up. But in order to make sure that, you know, some of these new grads have places that they really want to work, especially after having an experience of being outdoors with kids and realizing how good that feels for you, even just as a therapist. And there's not a ton. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 of us in all of Washington so far. And so to be able to service another population and some other therapists, so we're sort of expanding over not where I directly live.
Sure. And so those students that are now graduating are the ones that are going to be kind of starting something up. Is it going to be a satellite part of your business, or?
It'll be I mean, it's run, there'll be employees, they'll be run through my business.
Right. Yep. And you'll be the OTR and they'll be the COTAs. I love that. Oh my God.
I know, we're working on some really creative and fun ways of doing evaluations and supervision and things that support them as a new grad. And because working in nature can be very sort of lonely, because you know, you don't often have coworkers working with you outside in this time right now. There's not tons of us working out here. And so oftentimes it's a lone entrepreneur that has started a practice and they're by themselves for a while. And so students is one way that I love having other people with me, because I'm very social and love coworkers, but also for my new employees, like, I'm going to be pairing them off. So there's at least 1 or 2 of them in the same area, so they can work together if they wish, or separately if they wish. But they have someone there that they can meet with in person really regularly, to just discuss kids. And they can always meet with me on Zoom, or we can, you know, arrange meetups. But they live about 1.5 to 2 hours away from where I live. And so having somebody that's close by and they can treat with, or treat siblings with, or do groups with, or anything like that, I think is really important. And so if anyone's thinking of starting their own thing, you know, it's nice to have somebody out there with you when you like need to pee, because it takes longer to do that in nature. You know, you can't just jump in the clinic and put your kid on something chill in the ball pit and go pee real quick, you know.
Right.
It's a little bit different sort of,
Love that. You have to keep me in the loop on how that all works out. I mean, I've done a little bit of I did some handwriting in the backyard, and I had a COTA doing some of that work for me, mostly during COVID, but it has continued. But I haven't, you know, thought about expanding that to nature-based OT, you know, and actually calling it OT. That was more enrichment, but I was having a COTA do that. So, ooh, I love that idea. I'm gonna have to think about that too.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's the easiest way to expand your business when you're nature-based therapy, because they have plenty of parks where they are, and I'm not paying rent for those parks, you know? So it allows you to then just focus your resources on just your employees, so you can pay them a little bit more without having to worry about these other overheads of rent and everything. And then be able to give them support where they are without having to have a whole nother building 2 hours away.
Right. Very good points. Love it. I love that. All right. So now we're kind of on to, if you know, what has been helpful for you, and like some key kind of words of wisdom. And I know you already mentioned that having students has been helpful. What else? What else? What has been helpful?
Learning about like forest kindergarten. So the Cedarsong Way is, as I said already, like heavily influenced my nature-based practice as well. Because it's very child-led, so it fit with sensory integrative programs and like thought and, you know, frame of reference really nicely. So honestly, I use the Cedarsong Way like a frame of reference in order to inform like the child-led and inquiry-based and place-based. So there's a lot of the nature component that wasn't in SI, where the most of the child-led and like how that all worked. But when you combine them together, it gives you a full picture for outdoor OT. So I highly recommend those kind of, they have like little foundations classes and stuff that are very inexpensive for just tiptoeing in if you wanted some sort of like pre-training or a training but didn't want to do a full nature-based OT training. I really appreciate that. Their books, although not written from an OT, so there'll be things in there that as OTs we will go, that's not really how
Well, you can what, you know, makes sense to you and what really would support children, and then you can bring your knowledge into it and just blend it together.
So that's been really supportive. Also just learning a lot about how the nervous system works. So, you know, trauma work, polyvagal theory, all that kind of stuff, because nature itself as an environment, we have lots of studies in Japan, especially about how that affects our nervous system really directly. And so thinking about how healing the nervous system and being outside can really support. And just let's see, what else is really supportive? The right clothing, very important. Because you're out there way longer than the kids are. So even if your kid shows up in sweatpants and Crocs when it's winter time, they only have, you know, an hour or so to deal with it. You're going to be out there for a while. And
now, being in Washington State, you're dealing with kind of damp conditions.
Yes, it rains all of January, and it's cool rain. It's not like warm rain. It's like low 40s often rain. And so it's wet. And just getting to know your area. I mean, one of the things that I'm having my my first couple employees do right now is scout out what parks near their home that they feel will be really nice to work at. And a lot of the things that we're looking for is like, is there an easy bathroom? You're going to be there all day. And, you know, kids often will have panic moments where halfway through sessions, they're like, oh my God, I got to poop. And you're like, oh no, what are we going to do in here? Kids do not plan their bathroom situations very well. And so, you know, having a bathroom or having a place that you could have water. So whether that's in the bathroom or at a drinking fountain, in case you need that to clean up after a project or to use for water balloons in the summer or whatever it is. And then just sort of the, you know, the general vibe of the park. Like, how does it feel to you? How, you know, do you see a place that you could hang Lycra? Because I love bringing Lycra everywhere. Kids love Lycra.
Well, yeah, because you're really assessing the location for its affordances, right? I mean, that's kind of what I call it. So I have, stay tuned, because I am creating this kind of site assessment that you can just take and have a checklist about kind of what the features are and what the affordances are and who it would be best suited for, and whether it be an age range or a specific kind of group of needs. So anyway,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Anything else that you can think of?
Honestly, I mean, just in an OT sense of things, but because my outdoor sessions are all child led, I've learned a whole lot about pathological demand avoidance or pervasive drive for autonomy.
Tell me more about that. I don't even know what that is.
So PDA is subtype. I don't know how to exactly say that. Kind of like how RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria, can be with ADHD.
Okay.
PDA goes with autism generally.
Okay.
And so, as of now, the understanding, because it's more diagnosed in and identified in England, but PDA tends to only link so far with autism. But it's that demand avoidance in the term, but it's people who have a really strong sense of autonomy and their identity. They almost feel ageless, and so a lot of the social constructs of like ageism and like, oh, you're little, so you need to listen to older folks and those kind of things just like doesn't exist. It's just not part of their social understanding. Gotcha. And it can be really challenging to do things even as adults, because there are things that their brain starts to perceive as a demand. Sure. And therefore it almost puts up a block to doing it. A lot of older, like meaning adults, PDAers tend to describe it as sort of like a river. And if they're in the flow, in the river, which I love, it's like, oh, a nature metaphor. It's like kawa. This is great. Yeah, but like if they're in the flow of the river, they can do stuff. Yes. But if there is a demand placed, whether them by themselves or others, so whether that could be like, you know, sometimes even like a scheduled doctor's appointment, or somebody telling them to do a thing, or them going, oh, it's my writing time, I'm supposed to write now, even if they're a writer and they love writing, it like diverts the river or puts a big blockage, and it just stops their whole life force, and they just like shut down. Yeah. And so it's a really challenging way, a lot of, especially for children, a lot of imagination and storytelling and role playing can be really, really supportive, and very like silly ways of approaching things that are demands. Gotcha. But a lot of these children struggle with things like hygiene, because those are huge demands that happen all the time. Right. And things like hair brushing and toileting. And so it's just a really interesting subgroup of autistic humans that working with in nature, because I don't control usually what changes in nature, like nature controls that. Gotcha. And so you get a little bit of removal that it makes it a little easier for them to expect why suddenly it's cold today, or I didn't make it cold, or like these things that normally were very not okay and cause a lot of anxiety because it felt like a demand. Sure. There's just a lot more freedom in nature. And so PDA kids have been really successful in child-led nature-based settings, more so than others, because there's not even a construct of you have to be inside doing these 5 options and they can see in front of them, because that starts to feel like a demand. Yeah. As opposed to we are just here and it is open and let's see what happens. And then you can guide your relationship with them and work through anxieties and, you know, work on building that relationship while respecting their autonomy. Right.
And nature has these kind of challenges, right? But it would be harder to blame nature.
Yeah. Or, you know, I mean, having that removal is really helpful, because like if I was in a clinic and wanted to work on some messy play stuff, that's all from me. Like if that causes them anxiety, I just cause them anxiety. Right. Whereas if they just are walking to the creek and they fall down and land in the mud, I'm the one that's helping them work through the anxiety. I didn't create the anxiety, and they don't blame me about the mud. It was just there. It was in nature. They were in nature. They knew that was what it was going on. And so then we can work together, and it's a lot more of a co-regulation, like therapeutic relationship, rather than I'm going to pretend that I know you don't like this. Right. And like, I'm going to try to find a way that maybe you'll play with trucks in it because you like trucks to do shaving cream. So it just feels a lot less forced. And
and that's where the triad between nature, the therapist, and the client. But nature really isn't this human being, right?
Yeah.
it's the container, and it's this big factor, but it's not in your face factor.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So awesome. Well, I learned something. Thank you so much. So
you're welcome. Yeah, everyone look up PDA. It's fascinating. And there's some really Christy Forbes and PDA Extraordinaire Harry, a lot of really cool Sally's Guide to PDA, a lot of really cool Facebook and websites and stuff to learn about it, because it's really important. And I think some of our artistic clients and other people we know in our life have those challenges that haven't really been recognized, because the US doesn't really recognize them yet clinically, but they do in the UK, so it's coming.
It's coming. We're always usually the last to know.
I know.
Things that kind of matter, it feels like, anyway. So, okay. So now I'm kind of do you have a favorite nature space there in Washington? Is it Ruby Beach?
I actually have not been there. I know I have not explored too much of Washington yet. Because
well, you had to go to Ruby Beach because it was beautiful.
I heard it's incredible. We did a little more exploring in Oregon. I thought we were going to end up in Oregon, and then we ended up in Washington because of the school-based job that I took, a travel contract. And so we ended up kind of getting really locked down on our not tiny, but like our tiny property area. So we have spent a lot of time on my 5.5 acres.
Yes. Well, you had this beautiful house now, and you didn't have that, what, 2 years ago?
Last year. This is our first year in it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Ruby Beach. And then the really big old cedar tree that's right off of that highway too. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to go. I really want to go to Hoh Rainforest. We haven't been there yet. Have been up to Olympic, and but we haven't even been out to the coast yet. It's wild. Like, we need to explore so bad.
You have beautiful nature all around you, so I can see why you don't always have to leave, right?
Yes, our property is my husband's favorite. He's like, this is our national park. Why do we need to go anywhere else? It's so pretty here.
Yeah, I live in a beautiful space too. So when we go on vacation, I have to go to places like Ruby Beach, because that's like, oh wow, this is beautiful. We went at sunset. It was gorgeous. So
cool. Yeah, we live right by Indianola Beach, which is just about a mile walk down our road. So we're very close to it, and we get the fog still. We're close enough to the beach. You can hear sea lions in the summer and stuff. And it's that we have a really big mud flat, so the tide goes out really far, like very far, and then it'll come in. And so like it's a wonderful place also to do OT. I love doing OT down there because they're like mud flat sandbar, so it's really fun for kids to be. But it's just so amazing down here. So probably being down at that beach is one of my favorite nature places, and I always forget how much I enjoy it.
Awesome. You have access to so much there. I mean,
so lucky.
Wherever we are in the world, there's beauty to be found and discovered. But yeah, Washington State is.
We got forests, deep forest, like where I grew up. Pine, like there's not as much pine here, but the sort of evergreen forests is cedar, Douglas fir, and hemlock fir here. But the evergreen forest, and then also an ocean, like, because grew up in Northern California. I was not near. I was in more like towards Reno-ish area, and so I was nowhere near the ocean. And now I just can like walk down to it, and it's really wild.
Wild. So wonderful. Awesome. All right. Do you have a favorite quote that inspires you to do the work that you do?
Well, I really do like Erin Kenny's quote, children can't bounce off the walls if you take away the walls. She has some other really good ones. I was trying to look one up fast enough, but I cannot. I loaned my book to someone, so I was trying to find it online. But that one just sort of encapsulates the whole. What I've seen, seeing the same kids both indoors and outdoors, is the kids that have really fast shifting attention and really sort of hyperactive, frenetic kind of energy in clinic. And you see them outside and they're a different kid. And so now, even when we do evaluations, because with my boss, we do evaluations in the clinic. That's sort of my deal with him. But then I will not finish my evaluation until I also see them outside. Yeah. Because I have to see them in both environments, because sometimes they're a completely different kid.
Yeah. You can learn a lot just by watching them navigate the outdoors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I love that quote. That's a favorite one.
I know. It's a good one. It's on all the things.
But some people may have not heard it, so it's important to share it. All right. Well, I thank you so much for your time. I'm sure that you inspired many with your energy.